Dehydration of cyclohexanol is one of the examples of the required practical 5, which is distillation. So this is the setup for the distillation apparatus. And what about the steps? So for the dehydration and distillation, you're gonna start by carefully weighing 20 gram of cyclohexanol in a round bottom flask. And to do that, you need to do this by mass by difference, meaning you're gonna have to weigh the round bottom flask before you add cyclohexanol and after you add cyclohexanol. And then you're going to add 6 centimeter cube of concentrated sulfuric acid or concentrated phosphoric acid. Any of these will act as the catalyst for the dehydration. And you're going to use a plastic dropper or you can use a graduated cylinder. Then you're going to mix the content and then add 5 to 6 anti-bumping granules. And the anti-bumping granules, the role of the anti-bumping granules is to prevent the vigorous boiling of the solution. And you're going to set up the apparatus ready to begin the distillation. So this is the round bottom flask here, as we can see, and this is the source of heat. And then we have the thermometer. The thermometer bulb should be at the T junction between the condenser, the Liebig condenser, and the neck of the flask. And then we have the Liebig condenser. We have the water coming in from the bottom, going out from the top. This is to ensure that better distillation and also to make sure that the condenser is filled with water all the time. And then we have a receiving flask here. This is a conical flask where we're going to collect the distillate. So we're gonna heat the flask and we're gonna use electric heater. In this case, we're not gonna use Bunsen burner. And then we're gonna heat it at such a rate that the temperature of the distillation remains below 95 degrees Celsius. This is because this is the boiling point of cyclohexene. We wanna make sure that only cyclohexene is distilled, not cyclohexanol or any other component. And then we're gonna collect the distillate in a 100 centimeter cubed conical flask or a beaker. In the fume cupboard, we're gonna place the entire distillate in a separating funnel. Now we need to separate the cyclohexene from any impurities that may present in the distillate. So what might be the impurities? We may have some water, we could have some of the cyclohexanol, we could have some of the acid as well. So first of all, we're gonna wash it with 20 centimeter cubed of water. So you're gonna do the extraction in the separating funnel with some water to remove any water soluble impurities. And then you're gonna add 10 extract, and then you're gonna get rid of the aqueous phase or the aqueous layer because it has the impurities, and just keep the organic layer, which is cyclohexene. And then you're gonna add another 20 centimeter cube portion of 10% sodium carbonate solution. We added the sodium carbonate here and we did the extraction with sodium carbonate solution to get rid of the excess acid. So if there is any excess of the acid, it's going to be neutralized with sodium carbonate. And then we're going to wash it again. Of course, we're going to get rid of the or discard the aqueous layer and keep the organic layer. And then the organic layer again, wash it again with water to make sure that we removed all the water soluble impurities. And every time, as I said, we're gonna just keep the organic layer, get rid of the aqueous layer. And then we're going to transfer the organic phase or the organic layer, which should now contain only the cyclohexene that we distillated, into a conical flask. And then we're going to add a drying agent like anhydrous magnesium sulfate or calcium chloride. And then we're going to mix it and leave it a bit, and then we're going to filter it. Why did we add the anhydrous or the drying agent, the anhydrous magnesium sulfate or calcium chloride? This is to get rid of any remaining water in the distillate. Now, after you do that, you're gonna filter this the cyclohexene or the distillate, and you should have a dry cyclohexene at the end because you need to calculate the yield as well. So you're gonna weigh the distillate. How are you gonna weigh it? So before you do the filtration into a conical flask, you need to weigh the flask when empty and then reweigh it after you finish the filtration. So, what are the precautions we need to be careful of when we do the distillation, and what is the importance of the different steps and the distillation steps on and the whole practical? And these are some of the follow-up questions as well. So, first of all, we usually for any experiment, if you have flammable substances, you would use either water bath or electric heater. You would never use Bunsen burner. The anti-bumping granules are very important because they will prevent large bubbles from forming so the liquid doesn't boil too vigorously. The bulb of the thermometer should be at the junction connecting to the condenser to make sure the correct boiling point. We measure the correct boiling point. Then water, as we said in the leaving condenser, must enter at the lowest point, leave at the top, because then we make sure that the condenser is filled with water and also for more efficient cooling. And the system should not be airtight. This is because we're going to have a lot of gases, and the gases with the heat may expand, and that will build pressure inside and will cause explosion.